All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Terence Crawford is not on Vasily Lomachenko's level. Neither is Andre Ward because ESPN last night in the press conference or the last interview that took place between Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez said that Vasily Lomachenko, if he wins this fight, will be the best fighter of the post Floyd Mayweather era. And let me say, I think that is tremendously disrespectful to a couple people. And one was sitting right there when they said it. ESPN, man, has no respect, man, for Terence Crawford or Andre Ward. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So this is nothing new. There is a Vasily Lomachenko fight coming up this weekend with Teofimo Lopez, which should be a great fight. Definitely looking forward to it. Teofimo Lopez has been sold and has demonstrated in the fights that he's had so far that he is a tremendous up-and-coming talent. Definitely has all the potential needed to be a great champion in the future. Vasily Lomachenko has been a great champion at 126, 130, and now 135 pounds. Definitely is one of the best fighters in the world. Definitely is a guy that when you think about boxing and who the best fighters in the world, Vasily Lomachenko should come to your mind in relatively short order. Okay. So before I get into what I'm going to say, understand that I think very, very highly of Vasily Lomachenko as a fighter. But there is a difference between being a great fighter and being the absolute best fighter. And when you look and you say things, and I understand what ESPN is trying to do by trying to market Vasily Lomachenko to the fans that would be checking in to see the fight, but they're doing it at the expense of other fighters who have done much more, as much or more. I won't say much more. In the case of one, it's much more. In the case of the other, it's just more, but still just the way that they talk about Terence Crawford and Andre Ward around Vasily Lomachenko, I just think is tremendously disrespectful to these guys, right? So what am I talking about specifically? Joe Tessitore, I do believe that's the guy that does that actually does the kind of the shift in between the statements, kind of passes one statement on, passes the baton between the different people that speak. Is that the moderator? But that's who just Joe Tessitore is. And then in a transition between the interview that took place, or the interview that he was doing with Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez, he shifted over and he just said matter-of-factly that this fight is for undisputed. And if Terence Crawford can win this fight, not Terence Crawford, if Vasily Lomachenko wins this fight to become undisputed, then he is the greatest fighter in the post-Floyd MayweatherJr. era. Now, that of the people that are in the post Floyd Mayweather era, let me tell you who these people are. They are saying just offhandedly, Vasily Lomachenko is better. The three that I'm going to name, I think, are the most significant. One is Andre Ward. Two is Terence Crawford. And three is Canelo Alvarez. Now, on my personal pound for pound, I'm not going to talk about Canelo Alvarez much because Canelo Alvarez tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, and so I'm just not in the mood to defend him. But if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the fact that he had tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, that statement would have been just silly. That statement about Canelo Alvarez would have been silly. But let's talk about the people that have not had performance-enhancing drug violations that they are saying that they're better than. Now, this is not the first time that ESPN has done this. If you remember a couple years back, and this was, I do believe, after or right around the time that Terence Crawford became an undisputed champion at 140 pounds, Teddy Atlas was like, this is the best fighter in the world. I'm telling you, I'm telling you in your face, Andre Ward. I'm telling you in your face, Terence Crawford, that it's Vasily Lomachenko. Now, this is before Vasily Lomachenko even moved up to 135 pounds, right? This guy, he was still at 130 pounds, and he was still like 11-1. The guy turned but I'll get into that a little bit later, right? So That's what ESPN has done this stuff before, man. But let me tell you, dude, Andre Ward has had a better career than him, and Terence Crawford has done exactly what he's done before. So why in the world would this elevate Vasily Lomachenko above them? And to boot, Vasily Lomachenko is not going to be undisputed. Some people are going to say that he holds all four belts. Other people are going to dispute that and say no, he doesn't hold name me one other unified champion that holds the belt that he holds. There's never been an undisputed champion ever that has held the WBC franchise belt. Every undisputed champion in the history of boxing that people considered undisputed, right? Since the WBC and the WBA were considered major championship belts, all of them has held the same belt that Devin Haney holds right now. But let's walk through it, because just in case you guys don't believe me, right? So, Andre Ward, man. Andre Ward, unlike Vasily Lomachenko, is undefeated. Okay, that's the first one. I know ESPN likes to erase Orlando Salido from that record, and from Vasily Lomachenko's record, and they've done it on several occasions, putting his record as 14-0-1 when it was like 14-1-0. But hey, we'll just assume that they've done that multiple times on multiple different graphics, and they did it on mistake. Did it by mistake. Yeah, right. But anyway, so he's undefeated, right? He's had he had somewhere in the neighborhood 30-something fights in the mid. I don't think Andre Ward got to 40 fights, but he was well over 20 fights. I do believe he was in the 30 fights. And guess what else he did? He's also an Olympic gold medalist. And he won his Olympic gold medal at the same age Vasily Lomachenko won his Olympic gold medal. In 2004, because Andre Ward won his Olympic gold medal in 2004. He won a gold medal. I mean, he hasn't lost, and on top of it, he was undefeated in international competition. So when he was 24 years old and he won that gold medal, by the way, in a weight class smaller than him, bigger than he normally fights at, so he could allow one of the Durrell brothers, Andre Durrell, to fight in his natural weight class to make the team better. Andre Ward won it, and then he went pro. And guess what Andre Ward was doing at the same time that Vasily Lomachenko was winning his second gold medal? He was fighting for his first world championship against a 42-1 Miguel Kessler. A 42-1 Miguel Kessler. In Andre Ward's first fight, he won that fight. Vasily Lomachenko, who was a year older when he fought Orlando Salido, lost to a 41-12 Orlando Salido in his first championship fight. They were the same age when they got a championship fight. They both won their Olympics, but Vasily took another 4 years of fighting amateurs. He could have went pro after his first Olympic medal. He was 21 years old. 21 years old, excuse me. And he decided not to do it. He decided to stay pro. That has to count against you as a pro. You have 4 years of your prime that you chose not to fight. But they forget that. Regardless. Now, Terence Crawford. This is just obvious. Terence Crawford is already undisputed. And Terence Crawford, for the time that he won undisputed, didn't even get Fighter of the Year from Boxing Writers of America. Vasily Lomachenko did. And Vasily Lomachenko had only fought one guy that year who was in his own weight class. And that was Jason Sosa. The other two fights that he had that year, which was 2017, he had fought Miguel Mariaga, who was coming up from 126 pounds, whose last fight was at 126 pounds, fighting at 130. And Guillermo Rigondeaux, whose last fight, by the way, a one-round fight, he'd fought 2 rounds in a year. His last fight was at 122, coming up to 130. So please explain to me why Terence Crawford's undisputed didn't make him number 1 pound for pound or the best guy since Floyd MayweatherJr, right? Why didn't it work for him? Well, you could say, well, he fought a different person. This is against, this is against Teofimo Lopez. This isn't against Julius Ndungo. How do we know? Julius Ndungo at the time Terence Crawford fought him had just come off unifying 2 belts. And he knocked out he knocked out the guy with the WBA, right? He won the belt. How do you know that Richard Comey and Julius Ndungo aren't roughly the same level of accomplishment? Because Richard Comey only beat Ray Beltran and lost to Robert Easter Jr. So how do we know that this guy, Teofimo Lopez, I believe that he is, but how do you know off of it? But at the end of the day, man, it's just silly. Man, give Terence Crawford his respect. Give Andre Ward his respect. Even give Canelo Alvarez his respect. And quite honestly, give Errol Spence Jr. his respect and give Jermell Charlo his respect, because these guys are all doing stuff that are similar to what Vasily Lomachenko is doing. And they didn't have to duck Devin Haney to do it. But that's my take. I'm still looking forward to the fight, and I have a lot of respect for Vasily Lomachenko. But you let me know what you think in the comment section in this video. Thank you so much for everybody that supports over on the Patreon as a channel member and all that old good stuff. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm out. Peace.